A lamp falls from the sky. Jack picked up and looked. It says 18 Hill Street. Jack looked confused. There are no tall buildings in the town. Where did this lamp come from? Jack didn't think much of it. Driving to work, soon the news came over the radio. It said the light was a part that had fallen from the plane. At this point, the radio seemed to be malfunctioning. It kept switching channels. Jack did his best trick. A few kicks and it's fixed. But the radio seems to have switched to a certain channel. But the next moment, he realized that his every move was being broadcast on the radio.
Okay, he's making his turn onto Lancaster Square. Something's wrong. Change frequencies.
It was at this moment that Jack finally realized the problem. In order to verify his thoughts, he began to change his itinerary, observing everyone around him. Soon, he realized that these people seemed to be the same people he saw every day. An old man drinking coffee, a husband and wife having a conversation. He even found a man policing him. Jack didn't go to work as he had planned. Instead, he ran into a bank. The manager saw him and instantly became nervous. Jack walked straight to the lift, but the people in the lift weren't waiting for him. At that moment, the manager came over and said, "You needed a reservation to get up." Jack made an excuse and was ready to get on the lift. Instead, the lift turned into a break room for the group. Jack was stunned. The manager saw this and hurriedly kicked him out. Jack found a friend he had grown up with. Says he's caught up in a conspiracy. Jack told he everything that had happened today. However, his friend said that he was too tired from work and had hallucinated, and told him to go home and get some rest. When he got home, his mother and wife could see that he was restless, so they took out a photo album to reminisce with him. But in the next moment, Jack discovered a big secret. He used a magnifying glass to look through his wedding photos. He found his wife's fingers in the sign of the cross. This means that his wife's wedding vows are completely false. So he approached his wife, wanted to take her on a trip together, but his wife panicked and said she had an operation to do. Looking at her uncharacteristic behavior, Jack is even more certain of his thoughts.
I'll cross my fingers for you.
Seeing his wife go to work, Jack rushed to follow her on his bike, but as soon as he arrived at the hospital, he was stopped by a strange doctor.
Yes, I'm looking for my wife, Nurse Burbank. It's very important.
You know what, I'm afraid that's not possible. She's in pre-op.
Okay, fine. Can you pass along a message?
I'll try.
Can you tell her I have to go to Fiji, and then I'll call her when I get there?
When you get to Fiji?
You got it.
Fine, I'll tell her.
Just
After successfully tricking him, Jack turned around and rushed in. But in the next second, the patients and staff in the hospital were very cooperative and began to block Jack. Having managed to shake off the crowds, he finally made his way to the operating theater where his wife was. Seeing these doctors who were only performing, Jack was stunned. It turned out that even his wife's identity as a doctor was a fake. Leaving the hospital, Jack makes a decision. He's off to Fiji to find his first love, Ellie. He used a magnifying glass to look through his wedding photos. He found his wife's fingers in the sign of the cross. This means that his wife's wedding vows are completely false. So he approached his wife, wanted to take her on a trip together, but his wife panicked and said she had an operation to do. Looking at her uncharacteristic behavior, Jack is even more certain of his thoughts.
I'll cross my fingers for you.
Seeing his wife go to work, Jack rushed to follow her on his bike, but as soon as he arrived at the hospital, he was stopped by a strange doctor.
yes, I'm looking for my wife, Nurse Burbank. It's very important.
You know what, I'm afraid that's not possible. She's in pre-op.
Okay, fine. Can you pass along a message?
I'll try.
Can you tell her I have to go to Fiji, and then I'll call her when I get there?
When you get to Fiji?
You got it.
Fine, I'll tell her.
Just
After successfully tricking him, Jack turned around and rushed in. But in the next second, the patients and staff in the hospital were very cooperative and began to block Jack. Having managed to shake off the crowds, he finally made his way to the operating theater where his wife was. Seeing these doctors who were only performing, Jack was stunned. It turned out that even his wife's identity as a doctor was a fake. Leaving the hospital, Jack makes a decision. He's off to Fiji to find his first love, Ellie. However, the travel agent told him the soonest could get a ticket was a month later. Jack had no choice but to choose other means of transport. But after he managed to get a bus ticket, the bus also coincidentally broke down. So Jack soon realized that there is a force that keeps stopping itself from leaving. Returning home, Jack called his wife to the car and instructs her to look in the rear view mirror.
In just a moment, we will see a lady on a red bike, followed by a man with flowers, and a Volkswagen Beetle with a dented fender. Lady. Flowers.
This is silly.
There it is!
There it is! There's the tinted beetle! Yes!
Looking at his wife still playing dumb, Jack said he had watched them many times. These people keep spinning in place. After saying that he stepped on the gas, immediately ready to drive to Fiji. Seeing the traffic jam on the otherwise clear road, Jack didn't believe it. He put the car in reverse. After turning around and around the roundabout, he pulled back onto the road he had just driven on. Sure enough, the road that had just been blocked was clear. Then they went to the Cross Harbor Bridge, but Jack was afraid to drive across because when he was a boy, his father took him out to sea, and there was a storm. His father died that day, and he was left with a shadow, a fear of the sea. In order to escape this conspiracy, he decided to take a gamble. He put his wife's hands on the steering wheel. He closed his eyes and stepped on the accelerator. This made his wife break out in a cold sweat. Luckily, they made it to the other side, but there are still obstacles ahead. The sign says there's a forest fire ahead, but Jack didn't believe it. He pressed the accelerator and went for it, and it's just as he expected. Just when Jack thought he was about to escape from this fake world, there was an accident ahead. A policeman tells him that there is a nuclear leak ahead, and advises the two men to leave the area.
Thank you for your help.
You're welcome, Truman. Hearing the stranger call out his name, Jack immediately realizes that this is still a scam. Jack rushes into the forest against all odds. Just wish he could escape from this world of lies, but with his strength alone, can't break free from fate at all. Back home, Jack becomes silent. He saw through the whole charade, but there was no way to unravel the lie. What was even more unacceptable to him was that the wife even advertised at this time.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
The wife was seen through. She couldn't pretend any longer. She grabbed a kitchen knife and tried to defend herself. In desperation, Jack has to subdue her.
Do something!
What you say?
Just as Jack is trying to get to the bottom of it, Tom, his best friend, finds him with a beer. The two men then went to their usual haunt. Listening to all that had happened to Jack recently, Tom pretended to be concerned and said, no matter what happened, he would stand by Jack, and he would trust him without reservation. Little did Jack know at this point that his friend's every word was a script written by the director, and in order to make the plot even more dramatic, the director even brought Jack's father back to life in situ.
I found him for you, Truman. Sure, he's got quite a story to tell.
Unaware, Jack slowly walks towards his father, naively believing that it was divine providence. Meanwhile, the director arranges close-ups, while the accompanying music builds up. Touching reunion images brought tears to the eyes of viewers in front of the television. The reality show's ratings reached a new high. However, just when everyone thought Jack's life was back on track, he suddenly disappears from the camera out of nowhere. The director looked at the sleeping Jack in the camera, suddenly had a bad feeling. He asked the crew to call up last night's video, and he found something unusual in it. In order to verify his suspicions, he hurriedly arranged for Tom to visit Jack, only to find a toy under the covers. The director was still naive enough to think Jack was just hiding, but when Tom found a tunnel that appeared out of nowhere, the director realized that Jack had already escaped. He had no choice but to stop the 30-year-old reality show. This left the audience in front of the camera confused. Immediately after, the director sent all the actors to launch a carpet search in Taoyuan Island. Even the moon in the sky was transformed into a searchlight to help in the search. But even so, they couldn't find Jack's whereabouts. Considering that it might be a problem with the light, the director ignored his men's advice. He raised the sun ahead of schedule. The entire island of Taoyuan instantly entered daylight. Finally, after much searching, they saw the figure of Jack in the sea, but everyone was very curious. How did Jack overcome his fear of water? With no time to think, the director hurriedly resumed the live broadcast. All the viewers were very excited. They even made bets on whether Jack could escape. At this moment, Jack is holding the pieced together photo. His mind was filled with memories of his first love, Ellie. Seeing this scene, Ellie before the TV was touched beyond words. The boat had been traveling on the sea for an hour. Suddenly the boat seems to have hit something. Jack rushes over and realizes it's actually a backdrop made of wooden planks. He followed the edge of it northwards. A staircase appeared in front of him. Jack walked slowly up it and opened the door. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from behind him. It was the director calling out to him. It turns out that from the moment he was born, he was watched by the whole world, and everything he did was arranged by the director. Everyone in this city is an actor, and this city is a huge studio. The director told the truth. He wanted Jack to stay. For him, everything outside is unknown, and here, he can be watched by billions of people, and a carefree life. The man listened and bowed deeply to the camera. Then he turned around and left the place in style. The audience has watched the man for more than 30 years. At this moment, they are not sorry. They were celebrating Jack, celebrating his bravery, celebrating his freedom, and in the end, he lived happily ever after with his first love.